Alright, what's up, everyone? This is Stokes. Um, I don't have my co host with me today. We've been having some technical difficulties when trying to make videos and everything like that. So, between his schedule, my schedule, and the fact that we've tried a couple of different videos and neither of them have worked. So I'm just going to do this one solo. Just want to check in with the league. We're not quite halfway through the season just yet, but I wanted to just talk about all the divisions, some of the interesting things that I've found when looking through the teams and the stats and things like that. So I'm going to do a little bit of a check-in video, and hopefully it goes well. Hopefully it's seamless. So yeah, we'll just get with it, and I'll talk a little bit about the game itself. Um, we've been playing the game for a couple months now, and in the first season, we're still trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, what types of things beats what type of defense and defense beating offense, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that for the first couple seasons, it'll be a learning curve for everyone as we learn both the game and then also learn the changes that are made to the game, whether it's the tuning or anything that EA does regarding the updates of the game. So over the course of the year, we learned this game, two or three, well, not two or three, but we learned this game again 10 times essentially. Every time the game updates, there's something else that changes or breaks, or we're just constantly learning the new things in the game. And a couple of things that I noticed, making stops on defense is really, really difficult. Unless you can get pressure on the quarterback, like there's just a very difficult time making stops. Unless you bring pressure, or you've got a good pass rush that forces a person to make some bad throws, bad decisions. It's really, really difficult to make stops. So I'm sitting back in coverage is it's a difficult proposition because there's just a really difficult time making stops. So that's what I've noticed, and some of the stats bear this out as well. So I think that going forward, I think it'll be really difficult for anyone to go undefeated. Like in general, like 281 is a very competitive league, granted, but like it's just going to be really difficult for someone to go undefeated because it is so difficult to make stops, and also like turnovers. If you have one bad game where you have a few turnovers, you're -2, -3 in the turnover battle. You're going to lose that game more often than not because of what I stated about defense being difficult. Until they make some adjustments for the zones or whatever, it's just going to be really difficult. And some of the zones are broken, or rather, there are plays that can beat zones given a specific look. So there's a play that Gas ran against Prey and I ran against Dirty. It's out of a bunch, and it's bench pivot. Although there are a couple of different plays in just like that, like smash return, I think as well. But bench pivot is the one that I used against Dirty. So just for as a tip for you people, if you see someone on on one of the hashes, and if you see them calling bunch on a hash, I would if you see the bunch on the hash side, so let's say they're in the left hash, okay? If you see the bunch come out on that side, so it's not to the wide side of the field, it's the short side of the field, you see the bunch, you see three wide receivers, there's a good chance they're going to try that type of concept on you. So don't call cover three in that moment, because bench pivot will destroy that every single time. I mean, it may sometimes work to the wide side of the field, but it's a lot more difficult for it to. So for people who like to use cover three, just pay attention to what you see called, because cover three is one of the easier defenses to bomb from what I see. But make no mistake, I call cover three like more often than not. So I use 85, 90% cover three. And I just hope that my pass rush gets there to keep the bombs from happening. So I call a lot of cover three. So I've looked into some of the things that beat it, so I can be effective when someone does call it, or if someone likes to call it a lot versus me. And depending on the game situation, I I only used a bench pivot once versus Dirty. Granted, I did lose that game. I only called it once in that game, and I think given a different circumstance, maybe if it were a playoff game and I saw someone sitting in C3 all day, I might use it more. But being that it was a regular season game, I think it's it's not really anything that you learn from using that play. It's, hey, you send the guy on a streak, bench pit, the corner route's going to suck up the cornerback, and that's a touchdown, 100%. So just a tip for people who like to use cover three. If you see the bunch on the short side of the field, expect it. I mean, and there are good plays out of those formations that don't involve bench pivot, but just be aware. Um, but in general, this game is really difficult to play defense and to play defense effectively. I think I haven't had too many games where I was completely stifled, aside from when I'm playing a little bit differently. So if I have a lead late, and I think just in general, I've been more dependent upon my run game, just mainly because I have Nick Chubb and he's unbelievable. But when you're protecting a lead, like it's difficult to just sit back in coverage, and I think that's something that I have to learn and make a few changes within my own defense about it, because like sitting back in coverage is just asking to be eaten alive. And I mean, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to just blitz and then potentially get beat on it with just one broken tackle, one Moss. So I mean, it's just a lot of difficult propositions for the defense right now. So I think that over time we'll start to see a little bit more from teams and everything like that. So one thing I also wanted to mention is Madden, as with real life football, it's a copycat sport. So I like to look at other people's games. I take account of my own games. When I see something that is effective against me, or I see something from someone that's effective in a game, I will look at it and maybe scheme it up in practice for 10 or 15 minutes to see just what it is, why it worked the way it worked, and potentially add to my own arsenal, because I only have I have maybe like 8, 9 pass plays that I feel pretty comfortable with calling, and it's always nice to add another tool to the toolbox. So it's not no one here is going to run a scheme that is just super new or unbelievable or hasn't been seen. So I think it's not. It should be expected that people are going to use concepts that they see in other games. There's nothing wrong with the fact that you may use a play or a concept that someone else uses. It is just how football works. Everyone learns from one another, and I think that that's something that we should all take account of, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. If I see someone knows how to kill C4 with a certain player formation, then hey, I'm gonna look at that and see how they did it, what the plays that they called, so I can have that option when I see someone sitting in cover 4 all game, or when I see someone playing cover 2 all game. Just figuring out the plays and the formations, so that way I am better off when I see someone using these certain things. So I think that is important for everyone to consider. And some people who think some people think they may be too good to look at game tape or whatever. Not even game tape, but I mean, so people think they're too good to want to quote unquote copy off of someone else, rather learn the game. That's fine if you want to spend the time to do that, then that's great. But spending time looking at other people's games, that's the same concept. Um, so I think that it's important for everyone that you're going to be as good at this game as you put at the time you put into it. If the only thing you do is play your league games, do your practice or whatever, then move on. You shouldn't expect that you're just gonna be top notch or whatever. You should expect that you're going to be middle of the road if you don't spend any time on this craft, because this is a craft. I mean, it's not like a livelihood for some people. Some people in like the professional streamers and stuff, that's a livelihood. This is a hobby and it's a craft, and you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So I think that if you're not willing to learn and look at things from other people who may be better than you at the game or as good as you at the game, then you're doing a disservice to yourself and your own expectations. If you're expecting that you're just gonna blow people out just because you've been good at Madden for however many years, and I think you're setting yourself up for a world of disappointment. So that's my little bit of a soapbox comment. And it's not obviously it's not directed at anyone. I don't really talk trash. It's just a general comment about the way things go with Madden every year. Like people oftentimes expect video games to have human-like qualities, and they expect these algorithms and mathematical equations to react in a way that a real person would. And just I want to circle back on something else. I want to talk a little bit about what Prey was discussing about Gas. He was down. I think the game was tied 14 seconds, and Gas bombed him with. I think it was a post or a corner, or not a corner, but a post or a crosser. And I understand his frustration because the post ran across the safety's face, and he got him butt naked open because the other corner on the other side of the field wasn't anywhere near him. So I understand completely how and why that's frustrating, because if you tell a corner, hey, you're in deep third, why are they sucking up against, I don't even know what the route was on the other side of the field, but either way, the corner wasn't there. And why is the safety letting a post cross his face and let him go by? So I get it. I understand the frustration there, because a logical football mind would in the huddle you say, hey, safety, if you see a post coming, take that post and carry it all the way up the field. We have 14 seconds left in the game. Yes, that's great. That's logical. That is how real life would work. But in a video game, the video game is just the video game. So the safety is going to let the post run by, and that's just going to be how it happens. He has his zone. He doesn't have a match concept, so he's got his zone. He's playing his deep middle. That's what he's supposed to do. So I get it, and at the same time, it is a video game. But let's say in EA's algorithm, or the mathematical equation, the safety is always supposed to carry the post across the field. Like if that was how the game was built, and the safety is always supposed to cross the field with the post, then if someone runs a post right behind it, we would be upset at EA because the safety didn't stay in his deep middle. So EA is in a losing position. They're in a lose-lose here, because if they make it one way, we'll be frustrated because of the one way you break it. Or if they do it the other way, we'd be frustrated with the way they break it. So it's just a matter of understanding that there is only so much. You can't tell specific things of a safety in the video game on the specific play. You can't say, hey, stay deep middle, hey, carry the post across the field, hey, carry the crosser across the field. We can't do that play by play. Whereas you can do that in real life, where you could have the linebacker say, hey, I'm gonna carry the post to the middle of the field, then I'm gonna let them off to you. Or like the corners can say, I'm gonna carry the crossing route. So these are things that you can work with humans, but it doesn't work with a video game, and it's not something that you can put in a mathematical equation that'll make it work. So there's only so much that we can do to make sure that these things work out the way they are. So until then, I mean, the game itself, the zones are broken. I'm not saying anything that's is about the zones not being broken, because they are. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that at all. But at the same time, EA can't make a perfect game. We're never gonna have a perfect video game to where we all look and say, okay, this is exactly how it should go. This is exactly how it works, and this and that. Like even in real life, these players make dumb mistakes, and they end up leaving their zone anyway. So like, who was it? Jackrabbit Jenkins. It was against the Bills. This past Monday or last Monday. So the Bills ran like a cross wheel concept. I think it was Manny Sanders and Beasley. Sanders ran like an in route on the outside. Bees ran a wheel, and Jackrabbit took the in route when and Beasley was open butt naked in the end zone on the wheel. Jackrabbit was in cover 3, and when the pass was thrown, you saw his safety look at Jackrabbit and was like, what are you doing? So even in real life, these things don't always work how they're supposed to work. If you say, hey, you're supposed to be in cover 3, you're supposed to be in your deep third, and it didn't work in real life. Blown coverages happen in real life, but at the same time, they're not as consistent as it is in Madden. So if you ran bench pivot 25 times against cover 3, it would be a touchdown 25 times as long as you had the time. So I guess that's the difference. Like if you did that 25 times to Jenkins in real life, obviously he's not going to take the in route every time. So that part of the game is where real life would help. But I spent, how long was that? I don't know how long. Okay, I spent 17 minutes talking about the game and all that stuff. So hopefully that was beneficial to some people. But if not, I apologize. Okay, so let's talk about the league itself. I'll start in the AFC East here. All right, so we've got Jor-El leading the division right now at 5-1. His only loss came to Carolina in Week 1. That was to Skeet. And in second is Tony right now. He's 5-2. 2 losses to Tampa Bay and Jacksonville. One of the things that I found interesting about this division is 3 of the 4 teams have a positive point differential. And I think that point differential is one of the really good indicators of someone's success or overall the way they're playing. I think that's really indicative of success as well as turnover margin. Those 2 things I think are going to be a really good correlation to how a person will look as far as playoffs, on whether they're a big time competitor or like a threat, or whether they have just gotten lucky. But at the same time, some games can really affect a point differential. So if someone gets blown out, 45-0, that's going to really affect the point differential, and it may not be indicative of the way they play. So there's no end-all, be-all statistic aside from wins and losses, I guess. But point differential is something that I tend to look at when I'm looking at teams and trying to analyze things like that. So I'm pretty sure I took Jor-El to win this division at the start of 2-8-1, and I think I'm going to stick with that because I feel like Jor-El is is a really good player. So I'm gonna stick with that pick. Um, Although Tony has been playing well, like he's got 2 losses, but I think he's only got one game that was like a sim or that wasn't a game that he played. So Tony, he hasn't said a whole lot, but I know he's just waiting in the wings. If he gets in the playoffs, he starts making some noise in the playoffs. We're gonna see some live videos from him. So I'm looking forward to that. But at the same time, he's also busy as well. So it is what it is as far as that goes. I'm looking forward to his videos as they come. But I'm still going to stick with Jor-El to take the division. Next, I'll move on to the AFC West. Now, this is a division that I mean, I don't even know what to make of this division. Honestly, we've got one person who is actively trying to lose their games, and I don't want to say actively like he's completely tanking, but he doesn't want to win. I'm pretty sure that's Trey. He doesn't want to win. He doesn't have a good team. I don't think he drafted many, if any, of his players. So I know he doesn't want to win games. And then of course we have the Raiders, who are ownerless right now. So they're going to take 4 losses until they have an owner. And then we have the Chargers here. Andrew Ader, I think that's how his last name is pronounced. He came in with all this bluster, talking about how he's going to be this and that, and love the energy. But he started out with 4 losses in his first 6 games, and that's something you can't really get off that. He talked about how he's going to lead the league in passing and touchdowns and this and that. And during the draft, he made so many posts, and which is great. I love that for the league. I love the energy that he's got. I love the trash that he's talking. But at the end of the day here, he's got 4 losses and only 2 wins. So he talked about how he's going to still win his division and all that. Like, I mean, that's not really an accomplishment here, because you have 2 people in the division who are not actually competing with you for the division. So it's just him and the Chiefs. It's just a 2-person division for this season. So to say, hey, I'm going to still win my division and make the playoffs, it doesn't really say anything. It's not really indicative of the fact that he's playing a good brand of football. He's passing very well. Looking at his efficiencies, he's doing pretty well. But he's talked about how he's in pro leagues, and he's in pro leagues. He's still doing this and that. But in 281 is 281, and when he came in talking with all the bluster, we felt defensive as a league, and this is very similar to when Gas first joined the league, and he came in with all his bluster and all that, and it didn't work out for him either. The no new friends concept, the protect the shield concept for 281. This is completely expected of anyone who is new to the league and comes in talking any kind of junk. So what has happened as far as him being the butt of jokes early on, I don't think it's going to go anywhere as long as he continues to lose, which I would expect. In the next few games, he's got Eric once, the Vikings. He's got Gas in week 11. He's got Eric week 10, I think, Gas week 11. Then he plays Ramey in week 13, I think, the Giants. So it's going to be really interesting to see how many losses he ends up with. I'm going to say he ends up with like 7 or 8 losses. That still may be good enough to win the division, because the Chiefs aren't really doing anything with that. And their head-to-head matchup, he won 52-7. So Dales is winning the division currently, but he has a negative 57 point differential. So that's tough. Obviously, 45 of those points came, negative 45 of those came in his game versus Ader. But I mean, Ader, obviously, he's putting up points, 229 points in 6 games. His losses came to Washington, Money, also Self in Dallas. He lost to Wilson, who is pretty good. I think Wilson's a good player. I mean, he plays on the D line, which I don't like, but and he also lost to Watts. So his losses aren't terrible, quote unquote, but he does have 4 of them. So I mean, you have to beat the guys that you're going to see in the playoffs one way or another. So right now, I forget who I chose to win this division when we did them, but I have a hard time picking against Ader because of the fact that his passing game is effective, and he's efficient, and he's got Patrick Mahomes. So I mean, you got all those things working together. It makes it really difficult to pick anyone but him. And of course, he's only got 1 person he's playing against in the division. So I think I'm gonna go with Ader to win this division. Although Dale, hopefully you can back that up and back up the talk that we want from 281 to protect the shield, the no new friends. I know you haven't spoken too much on the boards, but hopefully, I know you're a good player, so maybe you can protect the shield here and keep him out of the playoffs. And then if he misses the playoffs, it's going to be fantastic. I think it'll be great content for the league if he does miss the playoffs. Talking about how many bums, quote unquote bums, he lost to. So it is what it is. We'll see how it goes, but I also pick him in this game, in this division. So we go to the AFC North now. Gas, the Steelers, is winning division currently, 5-1. His loss was to the Packers in a fair sim. He's got 1 forced loss, a 1 forced win, and a fair sim. I'll talk a little bit about his bet with Ader when I look at the stats, but right now he's doing well. Aside from the fair sim, he's obviously beaten everyone he's played. He had a really good game with Prey, which was fun to watch. It was back and forth. They were just scoring lots of points, and it was a fun game to watch. So we'll see how he continues, because he's got 2 games left against the Ravens, which is Watts, who has been a bit of Gas kryptonite as far over the years, and I'm going to say that Watts is not going to be able to touch him yet. Watts, as the years go on, he tends to develop really, really good teams, and when that happens, that'll be interesting to figure out how their battles go forward. But I think obviously Gas has the biggest advantage versus anyone, having Lamar Jackson. Like Lamar is just a complete anomaly, even more so than any other player in the game. I mean, there are some anomalies that you just can't find or don't see, but when you look at Lamar, he's the single player that I don't think is tradable. Like there are those players that you see that are really, really incredible, like Micah Parsons, Isaiah Simmons. You got guys like Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Tyreek Hill, etc. I think Lamar is the only player that no matter what you trade for him, you didn't get enough. If you ever trade Lamar, there isn't a proper value that can be set on the effect that Lamar has on the game. So I think that he is. That's just the one player that is just invaluable. I could see a trade of 5 firsts and 5 99 overall guys, and I still wouldn't think that the person that had Lamar got enough, because of the effect that Lamar has on the game, because he is so fast and he's got all these abilities and all this, and he's young and this and that and this and that. It just changes the entire way you play offense when you have a guy like Lamar. So I expected Gas to win the division, and I expect he's going to do that here as well. Watts' losses came to Detroit, Indianapolis, and Flo. Shout out to Flo. After Gas and I made our videos for the divisions, he made a video for himself, basically saying how Gas and I were wrong and this and that. And he started out 0-4, which made me a little bit worrisome of what he was going to do. But he's back. He has turned it around with 3 wins. So we'll see how things go. I'm pretty sure he's played Gas only once. I think he's got a game coming up with Watts, so we'll see how that goes. And Wilson, of course, he's 3-4. I think that he's a good player. So we'll see how. Obviously, he's got a positive point differential, so the record's not always indicative. Now we'll move to the AFC South. AFC South, Action is the leading that division, 4-2. Then we got Splash G at 4-2 as well. Dirty, I'm coming fresh off a loss to him. He is 3-4. So, Action, his losses are to the Rams and the Dolphins, and Splash's losses are to the Texans and the Titans. The one thing that really sticks out about this division is every player in the division has a negative point differential, which I find that to be very interesting. Like the point differentials are not huge usually in against them, but they're all negative. And I think that's very, very, very interesting. With the 4-2 records of the Colts and the Jags having a negative point differential, they're the only 2 teams in the league currently that have a winning record and a negative point differential. So I think that's I mean, the only thing I can say is interesting because you wouldn't really expect that with those records. But they're about 33% of the way through the season, so obviously they can turn around. When we picked the divisions, I'm fairly certain I picked Dre to win the division, and he has started off 1-5. So I'm not really. I would say I'm not super confident in my pick of him now. So I'm gonna have to hop off that pick, Dre. I do apologize, but I'm gonna hop off that pick, and I am going to choose. Oh boy, I'm gonna choose Splash here. I think he's gonna win the division here. I'm going to change my pick to that. Although he has 2 division losses, which puts him behind the 8 ball, especially with Action having 2 division wins. I mean, they still have their head-to-head battle, so that could change how that looks. So I'm switching to my pick to the Jags at this point. When I do this again, I might switch again. So we'll see. So that's it for the AFC. I'll move on to the NFC now. Start with the NFC East. And this division is really, really interesting, really cool, I think. We got the Cowboys leading the division. Self, he is 5-1. And then you have Alvin Ramey at 6-1. So the thing that really, really sticks out here is the Giants, their point differential. At 321 to 105. That's plus 216. That is by far the highest in the league. The next closest is Gas at plus 89. And then you have, I think Eric after that is plus 82. So plus 216, that means he is just demolishing the teams that he's beating. And the one game he did lose was to Self, and that's why Self is leading the division currently, because he has the head-to-head win. The Cowboys' loss came to the Patriots, which I find interesting because they're not even second in their division. So it's just Madden. Sometimes you get those games where you just can't win. Or sometimes things just go poorly. You have a bad interception, bad turnover, bad fumble at the wrong time, or you're going back and forth. If something bad happens, you get one sack, 1 3 and out. I mean, and then that can change the entire course of a game. So all these possessions are so important because defense is really difficult, and I'll get into that in a bit. So Self's point differential is plus 25. Ramey's point differential is almost 10 times that. So I think that the way he's playing, it's really difficult to pick against him, even though he does have the head-to-head loss to Self. I think I'm gonna switch my pick. When we initially did the picks, I chose Young, and I put the caveat on it. If Young is there and devoted, I think that he was gonna be good. And I still have a lot of faith in Young. I think that when he's able to put time into this game, he is one of our better owners. I think that his user is not to be trifled with. He has one of the best user games in the league. Um, I think that he has great anticipation when it comes to defense, and when it comes to making you change the way you want to play your offense, where you want to throw the ball. He does that really, really well, or he has done that really, really well. And I think that if he is devoted, he's got things going on. He's got a job, and I know we all have jobs, but he hasn't been able to put in as much time, or it seems that he hasn't been able to over the last couple of years, and it shows. But if you're going to tell me that Young is going to be in it as he has been in the past, and I would probably still choose him, but I think that that's a difficult proposition right now, especially with where he is in the division. I mean, two losses back. He can still, of course, come back from that, but I think I'm going to choose Ramey to win the division, the Giants. Even though he's got the head-to-head loss itself, I think the way he's playing with Brady, I think they're going to win the division. I'll move on to the NFC West, my division. I'm 5-2 with two losses. My losses are to Jacksonville and Houston. Both of my losses came out of conference, out of the division, so that's good. The two losses for the Niners came to myself and Seattle. So he's got two division losses. And then you have Strong there at 4-3. My expectations are to win the division, so I'm not gonna change my pick, of course. I'm gonna win this division. One thing I find that is interesting here is Prey sitting at 2-5, but the point differential is +3. So he's 2-5 with a positive point differential. Like every person in our division here has a positive point differential. So we as a division are playing well. Prey has been really unlucky. He's been playing a lot of close games and losing some games late. There was the one video he showed where he baited. I don't even know who he was playing, but he baited them into a slant over the middle. He had the linebacker, jumped it, and he put his hands up, and the ball just hit his hands, and he dropped it. So, and that's the type of the unlucky stuff that happens in this game sometimes, where you just have to laugh at it and move on, because sometimes the game is just not going to be in your favor, and you just have to have the faith that over time, these unlucky plays that you have now, you're gonna get them back over time. I think that EA tends to repay bad luck, and it could just be your game for bad luck. It could be over time. It tends to all even out, or at least in my opinion, that's how it goes. So the fact that he is +3, even though he's 3 games under 500, that's indicative. That's more indicative of the player that he is than the record. So he still got me twice. I know he lost to Strong, and he lost his game to Gas. So I mean, he still got time to turn things around and make it into the playoffs via wild card, because he's 3 games back in the division. I cannot see him making any inroads to the division now, but he could make it in via wild card, and then he'd be a dangerous wild card no matter what. So I think this division is going to be really fun over the course of the season. Strong, he plays a really interesting brand of football. He takes a lot of risks offensively and defensively, as you can see by the points scored and points given up. So I think it'll be really, really fun to see how this division shakes out over the seasons. I'm still winning it though. NFC North, Eric is the Vikings. His only loss came to me, 44-27. Shout out to Eric. So he's winning the division. He's not really taking any prisoners here. Point differential, a point plus 82. So I mean, he's taking care of business. In the games that weren't against me, he's positive 104. So that's 5 games average winning those games by 20 points. So he's not really playing close games. He's just going in on the people that he's playing. And in second place right now is Ernest. Ernest has 3 forced losses and 2 wins. He has a fair sim against Gas. So he has only played 2 games and he's won them both. And then 3 forced losses. I'm not sure whether he's on vacation, there's just bad scheduling, or whatever the case is. But there's still an unknown as far as he goes. He's got two wins in the 2 games that he's played, and in the last Madden, at the end of 281, he was in the final Super Bowl against me. So I know he's a good player. It's just that it's still unknown as far as what to expect from him, and I'm not sure when the Vikings and the Packers play, but it'll still come down to those types of games. But I'm not going to choose against Eric here. I mean, I think that would be foolish of me to do, because he's one of our better owners in the league. So I'm still going to take him to win the division. But the one caveat being, we'll see how he plays against Ernest the first couple times, because Ernest is a good player. And we'll finish it up with the South. Tef is leading the division currently, 4-2. His losses came to Dallas and Philadelphia. So 2 good owners that he lost to. Looks like he's still playing the same type of good defense that he has been in the past. And I think that when you see people who have low points against, there are 2 ways to look at it. They either have a really good defense where they're actually getting stops unlike everyone else, or on offense they're playing a methodical brand of football that shortens the game, limits the amount of possessions, and if we're only going to get 5 possessions in this game, there's no way we're going to score 50 points because the game is being shortened due to possessions and not turning the ball over. So I haven't watched too many of Tef's games. So I can't say which is which currently, but I mean he's only given up 101 points in 6 games. He scored 151, so positive 50. Skeet Skeet is the second place team, 4 losses. So we'll see how that goes the rest of the way. My choice to win the division, I forget who I picked. I think I might have picked Ski to win the division, and his point differential is plus 13. I think I'm going to stick with that pick or choose Ski to win the division here. He started out 3-0, has lost 4 in a row. So I think that offensively he's able to move the ball the way he needs to, and I'm going to pick him to win the division. Sorry, Tef. I think that Tef is good. Obviously, we play really good games, and he's had really good defensive games against me. I think that the problem may be offensively, but at the same time, you don't really know in this game anymore. Because even people that have been bad offensively, I mean, they can look really good because the game is really difficult to play defense for. So, I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna ride with Skeet here. Don't make me look bad, Skeet. Okay, so that's a look at the records. So let's look a little bit at the stats. So let's see. The leaders for passing. I think the leaders for passing should be expected, considering the bet that the guys have. So Gas and Ader, they have a bet, I think. Ader said he's going to lead the league in passing and touchdowns like he does in all his other pro leagues and such. And we came in with the bluster, and Gas naturally had to try and shut him down. I'm not sure whether they actually bet or what the parameters of the bet were, but as when I looked at it, I thought it was Ader said he's going to lead in both, and if Gas leads in one, they don't neither person loses the bet. So one person has to lead both in order for the bet to carry on or to carry. And currently, Mahomes is leading the league in passing, and Lamar has more passing touchdowns, but Brady is leading the league in touchdowns. So I don't know where the bet would stand as far as if someone else leads the league in a category. But either way, they need to figure it out because, I mean, as we get further on, I honestly don't really care who does what because it doesn't really matter to me. It's not my money involved. But I think that they need to figure out what the parameters of their bet are in order to figure this thing out. But Brady has 30 touchdowns. They have a head-to-head matchup. The Chargers and the Steelers do in Week 11. So I think that game is going to be really, really interesting, as well as the game with the Chargers and the Vikings. You got Derek Carr here. He's not too far behind in passing yards, and he's only 3 behind Brady passing touchdowns. So that's Eric, and he's got Tyreek Hill, of course, who we can get a deep touchdown pretty much any play that he actually that he needs to. So aside from those two, you got Strong in the top area passing yards. I think he might be on the short list for Rookie of the Year offensively. I'm not sure there are any rookie running backs that may get in his way for that. As far as efficiencies go, I mean, they're doing pretty well. My guy is leading the league in completion percentage. That's pretty cool. But obviously, he has like 130 fewer passing attempts than some of these guys. So completions in the 70s for a lot of the league. And there are, I think, nine quarterbacks averaging over 300 yards passing per game. I mean, the real NFL, I don't know if there are too many people averaging over 300. No one, of course, is averaging over 400 passing per game. But you can see Lamar and Mahomes, they are playing very efficiently as far as throwing the football. To pass the ball as many times as they're passing the ball, and to have fewer than 10 interceptions, that's an impressive thing when you consider how many times they're passing. But at the same time, it is Lamar, it is Pat Mahomes. They don't really have to throw the types of passes that are questionable. Like if they think that if I don't see this person is wide open, I'm just going to run. Especially with Lamar, they can get out of the pocket and look for someone else rather than throw a first read that may be covered. So I mean that's just the margin of error that those types of guys give you. So we'll move on to rushing here. We have Nick Chubb leading the league in rushing by 340 yards. I think that as long as I continue to give him the volume, that's going to be the case. He will probably lead the league in rushing for every year that we give him the ball that many times. Once he activates his X factor, I mean, you see 40 broken tackles. That's just unbelievable. 350 yards after contact. He is just incredible as far as a running back goes. And then you have Austin Eckler with Tony. He's doing pretty well. One person that's pretty much missing here is Derrick Henry because he is on the Steelers and Gas does not run the ball, so he's wasting away on that team. So I think that there aren't too many people who run the ball as effectively or consistently as I do. I commit to running the ball even in spots that don't really work. So like I'll run the ball on 3rd and 7, or I'll run the ball 2nd and 12, things like that. I commit to the run, and typically I trust myself to be able to pick up those types of yards. And a lot of people do that as well. But at the same time, some people end up, the first drive of the game, they end up getting stopped on 3 straight runs or something like that, and then they go away from the run for 2 quarters and they never get back to it. So that's something that I think that many people have a bit of trouble with, is sticking with the run and making sure you give the opponent the illusion that you may run the ball in any situation. Like, so I think that that's really important for an offense to be effective. Um, so when we look at receiving here, Deebo Samuel is leading the league in receiving. I find that to be very interesting. Um, like 947 yards through 7 games. That's a lot. And I looked at his stats. He has 2 games. One game where he had 18 yards, and another game where he had 52 yards. So that means that in the other games he was just going off. And at 36 yards per catch, with not a whole lot of rack, he's getting deep, and maybe he's winning the jump balls, or whatever the case is, or he has the zone busters. But either way, it looks like he's going to get to a superstar as long as his pace continues up. So when you look at the yards here, like most of these players here, aside from Waller, like all the wide receivers in this area are all speed guys. So you've got a guy like Claypool, who's not exactly a speed guy, but he is fast. You got Tyreek, Curtis Samuel, Waddle, Anderson, Hollywood, Scotty Miller, like all these guys here, all speedsters. And I know that it was said by Gas, I believe, that height is more important this year for jump balls. The stats are not bearing it out. It's still. Hey, do you have the fast guys? Are they still gonna? They're still speed is king. And obviously Claypool is a bigger wide receiver, so Strong is using him pretty effectively. But by and large, it's still the smaller guys that are still leading the league in these yardage categories. Curtis Samuel is averaging 58 yards per catch. That is unbelievable. 58 yards per catch. He has 8 touchdowns and 12 receptions. So I'm not sure what Ramey's doing with him. Whether he ends up seeing him man to man sometimes, and he gets behind the corner, or what. But that is crazy. He's got 122 yards of rack with 700 yards receiving. So I'm willing to guess that he's just getting them deep, and then he's only got to run another 10, 15 yards after that. So speed is still king. As long as there are Madden, speed will be one of, if not the most important factor. I mean, there's no way around it. Speed kills. Defensively, the one thing that I found to be really interesting here is that of these like top 18 to 20 players, only 2 of them have traits. So you got Shaq Barrett and you got Cam Jordan here leading sacks, or in the leaders among sacks with abilities. So we got D4, Deion Jones, Davenport, Olakun, Reddick, Fatukasi, Clowney, Chris Jones. Like all these guys, not many of them have abilities and traits. So I think that is really interesting to look at, and maybe it's just a product of just the first 7 games, and as the season goes on, it'll bear itself out. But it's really, 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 really interesting to me that these guys with the abilities, they're not exactly dominating the pass rush game. And then you look at the interception numbers. Not a whole lot of players that have abilities, and I think that is probably a product of people avoiding guys like that. Like when you get in this range, you got a lot more guys who have abilities here. But typically, most people when they see a corner with abilities, they don't throw that their way too frequently. So I think that makes sense. You're not really going to see the Jalen Ramseys of the world or the Marlon Humphreys of the world leading the league in interceptions because generally people avoid those types of guys when they're passing the ball. They're not going to force it into a bad situation knowing that the corner can probably pick that off. One thing as far as the team stats that I wanted to note is the conversion rate. So in real life, the NFL's average conversion rate is, I think it's around 37%, 37, right around there, percent of teams converting third down. So there are 22 teams in this league that are converting over 50% of their third downs. 50% of their third downs or more, 22 teams are converting. That is an insane conversion rate. The lowest conversion rate, 30%, the Chiefs, Dale. And you have two teams three teams with winning records at 40% or a little bit higher. The Colts, 42%, Steelers, 41%, 5-1, Rams, 40%, 4-3. So you have lots of teams with losing records. The Falcons are 1-5, and they have a conversion rate of 50%. Titans, Dre, 1-5, 51% conversion rate. Defense is so difficult. I mean, we can dismiss the Raiders because they're a computer. Defense is so difficult in this game that it's just incredible to look at how easily teams are converting third down. And I mean, these games are basically coming down to one, did you get a turnover or two? Two, did you make a stop in the red zone or two? Did you keep them to a field goal? And then how you're doing your conversions. 64% of the Giants. The fact that he's only had 25 third down attempts in 7 games, that's 3 or 4 third downs per game. So he is just converting on second down almost every time. So that's pretty crazy to consider. Just how few third downs he's had in 7 games. I think that his offense is obviously doing some work, and I may have to watch a few more of his games because I've got to see what he's doing and see what types of tools I can add to my tool belt here among the things that he's doing, because that is really 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 impressive to have that many third downs. Look at first fourth down conversions. I mean, Strong is just going in. 18 fourth down attempts. And that's confidence in your offense, I suppose. I mean, he's only converting at 61%, but that's a lot of fourth down attempts in a matter of 7 games. I mean, I respect the willingness to go for it. So it is what it is. As far as 2-point attempts, I always tell myself that one of these years I'm going to decide to go ahead and go over 2-point conversions all year long and see whether the statistics will bear out. Because if you can convert over 50% of your 2-point conversions, by and large, you are winning the game. You're winning the numbers battle. And I always say I'm going to do it, and then one of these years, one game I forget, and then I just get out of it. But one of these years I'm going to do it, and I'm going to go for a bunch of those 2-point conversions, and I'll see whether the statistics bear it out. But I think it's really interesting, this third down conversion rate. 22 teams, 22. So good, bad, indifferent. They're all converting over 50%. Turnover differential, Giants plus 24. The next closest to the Jets plus 9. So he is really doing work right now, defensively and offensively. So right now I would say he is probably right now the favorite to win it all based on the numbers. And he's played a game. I don't know who else he has played as far as good players. but we'll see as the season continues to wear on, because in the playoffs, you can't really avoid playing good players. So it'll be really interesting to see how he looks in the next check-in here. There's usually in these Madness this far into the season, you have like turnover differentials that are in the teens and 20s, and in this game you just don't get a lot of them, or if you do, you're giving the ball back too. It's just really interesting to see how things are going right now, and the differentials are really interesting. So they got the Jags -6 in turnover differential with a winning record. So that's probably indicative of the fact that he has a negative point differential as well. Um, so the Colts, they are even with turnovers, even though their point differential is negative. Um, so I don't have a whole lot left to discuss here. So it looks like Tef is playing really good defense, leading the league in yards, and that's Tef does play good defense. So it seems like he's just playing good defense as far as when I discussed the NFC South a little bit earlier. Um, yeah. All right, so that's all I've got, I think. I hope this was a fun video for you guys to listen to. I know it's a little bit long, got a little long-winded there, but hopefully this provides some pretty good content for the league, and I'll do this again as the season wears on. Peace.